Hello everybody, JFM Studios here. I'd like to start this video with a tweet I wrote a couple days ago. Sometimes I wonder what life would be like if I never pursued art or comics. I would have just been working in a body shop and probably make a lot of money doing that. But then I miss out on all the wonderful fans and friends I made. Thank you guys for believing in my work. Sometimes I do have to write tweets like that in order to vent a little. I do feel discouraged sometimes because of my choice in career, and a life of an artist or a cartoonist is very crowded yet very lonely. Sometimes I would feel helpless and compare myself to other cartoonists on social media. Like let's say there's plenty of examples of artists who are younger, who don't post as much as me. They draw well, very well, but they have tens of thousands more followers than me. And sometimes I sit and wonder, what do they do that's different than what I do? And just comparing yourself to other artists, that can really make you sad. So I decided to make myself feel better, other than posting something like that on social media. I think it's time I make this video. Not to tell everybody this little information, but to remind myself why I'm a cartoonist. My earliest memory of doing art, or something art related, is back when I was 7 years old in second grade. And I would watch the Rugrats a lot. That was my favorite cartoon show when I was a kid. And I wanted to draw them, but I was a terrible artist. I mean, I was 7 years old. I just drew my stick figures, but that wasn't enough. I would color code them. Certain characters were a certain color, certain shape of the head. That's how I would make them different. I wanted to put them in different situations that I thought were cool. So I remember drawing the Rugrats in like a Star Wars universe. Like I would have Tommy hold a lightsaber going against Darth Vader or something like that. And then it went on to Mario games. And that led to me making this book called Super Rugrats. It is very crude. The stapling is, well, I just stapled it back together, but as you can see, the original stapling was terrible. I mean, I stapled it all the way from here. And yeah, this is how I used to draw. Here's that little keyhole you find in Super Mario World, and the key. And I remember around this time I was dabbling with MS Paint, and I colored up a Vanilla Dome right here, little map. Yeah, I just drew the Rugrats, going through different stages, no words or anything. It's a picture book. I even spelled switch wrong. S-W-E-C-H. But I'm so thankful I still have that. And a lot of my classmates back in elementary school thought it was so cool. So I showed them those books, and I became known as the kid who draws books and makes his own little stories. And it got to a point where if the teacher had some time, they would let me read some of my books to the class. And I just love that. I love sharing my work, and I love the reception I get. I love writing jokes in my books and my classmates and friends laughing at it. Of course, there was this one time where when I read a book that I made, most if not all of the jokes were stolen from other TV shows, and it was not received well. Nobody laughed, and I cried, which is okay. I mean, what can you expect? I was plagiarizing. It wasn't until when I was about 10 years old when I started to make my own characters. I got into Pokemon, and I started drawing in the Pokemon style. and it would eventually evolve into my own art style, as you can see in the back here. I call it Toonime. It is a mix of Western art with some anime to it. I believe it's a very marketable style, something that it can be kid-friendly, yet it can appeal to teenagers and young adults, and maybe old people can find it cute too. It's something for everybody. Well, I got into Pokemon, and then I made my own characters, and then I made my own stories. I try to be more original with my stories when I was in middle school. That's when I created Jeff and Taylor, two teenage boys, about 14 years old. Yeah, these boys grew up with me, and then when I was in 8th grade, I decided, okay, it's time for these boys to stop growing with me. I'm gonna turn them, they're just gonna stay as 8th graders permanently. Well, not in the story, but in real life, in the book, in the story, they will be 8th graders, 14-year-olds. So, yeah, that's my reason why it takes place during their 8th grade year. So, it wasn't until 9th grade when I decided, hey, I'm gonna make a story, an official series starring Jeff and Taylor, because I was a bit wishy-washy with their books and adventures. I mean, one time they were just teenage boys living together in a house by themselves, going through a whole bunch of nonsense, but I decided to be more realistic with my story, and made family members for them. And then that's how I made the rest of the cast through that period. And I wanted to be an animator. I wanted Jeff and Taylor to be an animated series, so I made up my own episodes and pretty much made a list of the episodes of the whole entire series, because I personally believe a series, no matter if it's a cartoon or live action, it has to have a beginning, middle, and end. It has to end. I mean, that's why I'm so sick of SpongeBob and Simpsons right now, because they just won't end at all. So yeah, I wanted to be an animator, and then I found out that it was pretty time consuming, but I just wanted to learn. I kept drawing my characters, and I just kept making stories. Just thought of the stories, I never really wrote anything. So freshman year just ended, and during the summer, right before 10th grade, I noticed that one of my favorite animes, Case Closed, has a book, a little manga. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I can read the actual episodes in this book whenever I want. And I discovered that it was this right before it became animated. So I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so much easier to do than animation. A comic? I can do that. So, with this inspiration, I actually made Jeff and Taylor comic books. And in 10th grade, I made the original G-Station comic. It was about 48 pages, in full color, all traditionally colored. A lot of my classmates thought it was awesome that I made a whole comic by myself. And right there, I just love to feed off of people's compliments, as egoistic as it sounds. But I just kept going with it. So a couple months later, I made the next episode, then the next, then the next. And then I went to college, I remade some episodes, and thought, okay, I want to try something out. So I made my own book. I made a compilation. I wasn't going to sell anything. This was just for fun, just to show off an example. So I made this, Jeff and Taylor, Volume 1. And yeah, looking at it, it's not the best. I mean, I used a very old logo, old drawings, questionable font choice at the bottom. That's hard to read. But yeah, I actually put the first 3 episodes of J&T in this book. And I actually showed it to a couple people when I first attended Emerald City Comic Con as a guest. Well, not as a guest, but as a regular attendee. Just a guy looking at stuff and buying stuff. So I went to different booths like Oni Press and Dark Horse Comics, and the people manning those booths thought it was very cool that I got this. that I actually made my own comics and made this book. But it wasn't until when I met with or showed it to a editor for Dark Horse Comics, just to see what she thinks, and I was very disappointed and what she said. She was not impressed. She thought she thought I needed to draw better, which looking back at now, yeah, it is old. It's over 10 years old, but still, that just disheartened me. I was so disheveled when she told that stuff to my face. Being brutally honest, I felt my face getting red, and I just questioned, why do I even bother? But if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have gotten better, and I wouldn't have gotten some nice advice from Anthony Feynman, who another cartoonist who follows me, saying that he gave me some critique, saying that I need to have some variations with my line work, and to this day, I still have a recognizable line work. I mean, I can draw in any style, but my line work, you can tell it's mine. So yeah, thanks to him, that happened. But I decided, I thought it was going to be easy. Back when I was a kid, wanting to make comics, I thought it was going to be as simple as walking into the publishing company's office or building and say, hey, I want to make this comic. And they say, okay, we'll do it. I didn't know the reality of the business. They get thousands of submissions a year or something, hundreds a day probably, and you have to be very lucky to get published. And sometimes I would get bitter and say, how come this would get published but not my idea? Granted, I never really formally submitted my ideas to a publishing company, but I don't know. Right now, I trust myself, and that's why I chose to do the self-publishing route. And to this day, I have 6 self-published books. Remember the book that I just showed you? This is the current design. Well, the logo still needs to be updated since I just updated the logo, but this is how they look. The book is much smaller, and I put my design degree to use. So yeah, I have all these books self-published. I sold them at conventions, gave them away as prizes, gave them away as gifts. And it's a wonderful feeling that people actually have these in their shelves, reading them whenever they want. Of course, I published my comics on my website, jeffandtaylorcomic.com, but it's just something else. It's another great feeling to know that a person wants to have a physical copy and just read it in a car. You don't have to have internet connection for this. I still encourage kids to read, and I would love for comics and graphic novels to be more inclusive in the curriculum, the reading curriculum, literature, English, whatever you like to call it. So that begs the question, why am I a cartoonist? Well, it is hard to explain. The short answer is, I don't know. I just do it because I feel like it's right. I feel like it's the right thing for me to do. I mean, if I were to just abandon everything now, I feel like I'm throwing away a huge amount of potential. I have all these characters, all these original characters and ideas, and just let them go to waste with the whole world not, knowing about it. It's not right. That's why I encourage other artists to share their stories. To hop back to my tweet that I made a couple days ago, I wondered what would I be if I never pursued art or anything. Realistically, I probably would have worked in my dad's body shop. Now granted, I did work there for the past 7 years, but I probably would have been more enthusiastic, and I'd probably end up owning the place once my dad retires or something. And I would I would probably be a master at it. And he would probably be proud of me. I don't know how he feels about this cartooning stuff. I always had a feeling, though, that he didn't approve of it, that he thought it was lame or I was wasting my time. But I just I didn't care. This is something I have to do. And even today, I mean, there are moments where I feel like, oh, this is all worth it. Getting a whole bunch of wonderful feedback from my regular readers and you guys, my regular viewers on YouTube. It is a wonderful feeling, and I'm glad I did this. But then there are some times where I feel sad, where I'm like, what's the point in doing all this? I mean, I'm doing all this work, and only for a few people to watch, to look at it. And I feel bad for admitting this, really. I feel guilty. But yeah, I feel like my work has the potential to gain to be a global success. Really, just read the comics at jeffandtaylorcomic.com. Let me know, please. Let me know. I mean, a new episode will be coming out next Saturday, the 27th. Just in time. But yeah, I can't. I don't know, man. It's just so hard to stay positive sometimes. Even though I try my best, I try to have a smile on my face. Even if I were to make a whole bunch of wonderful videos, like I take your guys' suggestions to heart in that other video I made like a couple months ago. Let's say if I were to make a whole bunch of new videos, like an update to how I make a comic, or how I make a mini comic, or little tutorials, I feel like those will get thousands of views, but it won't give me any new subscribers or give me a big breaker, you know? I feel like my big break will never come. So that's why my end goal right now is to just finish Jeff and Taylor as a series and just leave it. I'll have a cult following, and people will know about the hard work I've done and the wonderful stories and characters. Yeah, but no matter who you are, no matter what profession you have or your occupation, I guess we all have something that we regret, or we have. We tell ourselves, man, I should have done this, I should have done that. We have the foresight. No. Hindsight. That's it. We get hindsight on, like for example, me. I should have just focused on Jeff and Taylor episode 1, G Station, and just refined it into making it perfect or close to perfect, and just submit that to publishers, and they'll be like, okay, this guy has potential, instead of just showing off my amateur drawings, and just kept going and going until, you know, there are times where I want to start over J&T. There are times. But right now I feel like it's too late because it's already up on the website. Everybody knows about the G Station here. I mean, the old episode at least. But yeah, there are times where I feel like I should have just focused on general art in college and just did my cartooning in secret, because there was a moment in college when I felt embarrassed for doing cartooning while everybody else was doing a bunch of cool traditional art, realism, abstract art. I should have just focused on the fundamentals instead of just trying to learn everything on my own. I can be stubborn like that. I'm a very stubborn guy. And I feel like if I were to fail, I would have no one to blame but myself. I even have a few regrets on showing my my work on YouTube, which it's I don't know. I know it's bad for me to say it. I'm sorry, but I feel like because I share J&T, that leads to people probably plagiarizing J&T, or because I kept uploading my work over a long period of time, it sets expectations. Like, people expect me to make more and more comics, more and more things, and making a comic, it takes super long. I would get messages, like really rude messages back then, about saying that, oh, I'm so slow and that I'm wasting everybody's time. Like, those messages really discourage me. But I still keep going, you know. Even if I were to lose all you guys, I would still make J&T, because this is something I have to do. So let's end this video on a positive note. If it wasn't for YouTube, if it wasn't for this path I'd chosen, if it wasn't for every little decision I made up to now, I wouldn't have met wonderful fans, and I wouldn't have made so many great online friends. I mean, I can't even count all of them, not on the top of my head, because there's so many. I even met some wonderful people in real life. I never would have gotten into conventions, and I never wouldn't have moved here to this wonderful place and met some wonderful people here. But yeah, we all have moments of weakness. I just want to remind myself that being a cartoonist is a cool thing, and that I should be proud of it. And no matter what you do, you should be proud of what makes you happy. Like I said, I won't stop cartooning until I'm dead, but I will hope that J&T lives on after I die. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. The next video will be happier. It's going to be a fun video. I'm looking at it right now. Alright, so yeah, I'll see you guys later. And tomorrow is Okisaracon, another convention right here in Helena. Yep, 3 days. 3 days of selling my stuff. Wish me luck, and I'll give you a little recap next week. Alright guys, see you later. JFM out, and I hope you have a wonderful weekend. Goodbye.